Today's guest, Joshua Lewis, comes with an unusual resume. Joshua communicates with the dead. Now, I know that's not the remarkable part because mediums have been doing this for centuries. However, Joshua does it using his smartphone. Yes, you heard me right. There's an app for that. Welcome to the Afterlife Files, where we investigate near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and all things afterlife, and how they affect you. Unlike podcasts that are just stories, we will give you a heads up on what to look for in our conversation, and then, after the interview, stick around. We'll help you make sense of those accounts so that you can incorporate the insights into your life. I think you'll find that having your most profound questions answered, living life in the physical, is filled with more peace and joy. Here's our bio. Joshua Lewis struggled to understand the world around him and his purpose within it. Following a simple spiritual path, he would come to understand his purpose in a very profound way. In 2012, his intuitive nature drew him to seek the truth regarding paranormal events and the existence of an afterlife. What he got was way more than he bargained for. As his intuitive abilities developed, he discovered he was able to communicate with souls on the other side. With his new group, Hope, H-O-P-E, Helpers of Paranormal Abilities, and his intuitive ability, he dedicated his time to helping stuck spirits cross over, as well as grieving people looking for closure. Then, using a wide array of technological devices, combined with his intuitive means, Josh has been able to successfully reconnect many people with their deceased loved ones. As you watch this extraordinary interview, here's a couple of things I want you to listen for. First, his explanation of how ITC, or Instrumental Trance Communication, works surprised me. It wasn't what I expected. See if you have the same reaction. I love how he communicates with entities using his intuition. I took notes on how he uses his astral room and intend to give it a try for myself. Then stick around until the very end. During the last 10 minutes, he shares with us some of the visual confirmation he's been able to acquire. It's really wild. This is definitely a new look on an old practice. Here's our interview with Joshua Lewis. And welcome, Joshua. We are really glad to have you with us here at the Afterlife Files.
Oh, it's awesome, Scott. Thank you. It's an honor.
So you are known for talking to the dead using instrumentation of some sort. And, you just don't wake up with that talent. So why don't you give us a brief story about how you got to this point where you are today?
Well, it's a great thing to bring up. I think of it often. I think of how ridiculous this must seem to so many people. And even to me at times, because I still am a logical person. I still have, I'm not, completely gone yet. I still am grounded, and I like to use reason and logic and all of those things. So, just this, the skinny of it is that I started really getting into the paranormal as a novice, just buying some basic pieces of little cheap radios and recorders and things, and going out to cemeteries and haunted locations, very traditional paranormal ghost hunting,
Okay, sure.
Yeah. And that's really, and we started recording very basic responses. Hello, I'm here. Where's the light? Get out. 2-3 word phrases. So you would get those kinds that would say, get out, I don't want to talk, that kind of thing, like, no talk or something, very basic. But then you would get some that really asked for help, or they would say, your name, or they would say their name. So that was very interesting. That I could not get over. I was recording that. I wasn't watching a show. I wasn't taking someone else's word for it. I was capturing this stuff myself, with others with me. A medium came along once, and she was getting stuff without giving her anything, because I didn't really trust mediums either. I didn't really know what to think about, mediums. I watched John Edwards crossing over when I was a kid, kind of, and I thought that was interesting. And then at the end of the show, there would be this fine print that, like, it wouldn't say it was fake, but it would say this is for entertainment, and because they had to. But that created doubt in me, and so I, by doing what I was doing, I was really finding out stuff. And then this medium came in, and she was getting stuff that we got already. She was getting things on her own of information that we recorded. And shortly after working with her, we started, my partner Nikki and I, we started picking up things on our own intuitively. So we started to get a thought, a feeling, and we would say it. And then the box would a response would come through validating what I just said, or what Nikki said, or whatever. That caused me to go work with Deborah Lynn Katz, who was Deborah Lynn Katz, PhD. She's an amazing woman, and she's an intuitive teacher. And I worked with her, and she really brought out my intuitive ability, helped to develop it. I became one of her, good, best students, I should say. And I was giving her readings and stuff. And she was, it was great stuff. But it's interesting. If you look at the progression from 10 years ago, from when I started to now, and you hear the recordings then to now, it is almost like I'm just recording almost conversations now. Now it's very direct. It's clearer. There isn't all this staticky, and it's not so short. I mean, it's not perfect still, but it's been, so now this is advanced ITC, advanced instrumental transcommunication. And it is not your typical paranormal ghost hunting. So it's pretty wild. That's all I don't know. I can keep going on, but that's what it is.
And well, what I know about this and this kind of work is that it depends upon, what your view of life is and what your view of the afterlife is. So doing this work for the last 10 years, what happens when we die, according to you, to Joshua?
Well, it's interesting. So I started capturing evidence in 2013, and I started getting a wide gamut of responses. Like I said, I was getting some negative stuff, but I was getting a lot of positive stuff. I was getting, so I was getting a mixture of things. So, but then I started intuitively picking up stuff, and it felt like, as I was capturing information through the box, understanding more of the intuitive information that I was getting personally, it felt like hell is a place more of our own creation. It's in a sense of our minds, or the way we live is kind of, we're creating our own reality. So people that are doing bad things, they may not go down to a fiery burning hell with a guy with hooves and stuff there, but it might be their own worst nightmare, or a feeling of some kind of repetitive, dealing with the guilt and the regret at some point. If they deny that, they can just be in darkness, and they can kind of be in a sleep. But at some point, there is no time. So at some point, they can't escape. They can't sleep it out. They're going to have to come to the reckoning of their own actions, the karma of their own actions. people that didn't live very spiritual but weren't bad people, didn't give the spiritual side much thought, more of a material, like living in the world, the job, the car, the house, the clothes, the status. They get to the afterlife, I feel, based on what I'm getting, and they're kind of like, well, what now? They're not in a bad place, but they know they're not in the ultimate place. They know that they're missing something. And so there might be some living amongst, there might be some coexisting amongst the living for a bit until something opens up, for them, or they decide to maybe ask for some help. And of course, people that are living connected, working on themselves, trying to live with love and light in their life, some kind of connection to a higher power. The light seems to be there, present, right when they're passing, and that light will stay there. If they don't want to go right away, they can kind of see their family, see the funeral. There's kind of this like process of a few days, it seems like. But then, that they need to go towards that light and go and ascend to a higher level. And when they do this, I get that people are coming back to visit. They're coming back to communicate. They're coming back to visit, but they must return back and ascend to a higher place again. And they talk of it as being a very amazing place. I've heard Eden. It's like Eden. It's amazing. There's light. There's our loved ones. There's a higher power. Many mention Christ. They mention, the gurus. What's interesting about it is that I felt this information prior to finding. I knew of this guru, this man. But in 18, I finally read this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and I became.
That's been on I think everybody's path at one time or another.
Right, and so sometimes it sits on the bookshelf, but you won't read it until you're ready. It's kind of like when you're ready, the teacher appears, and so I found Yogananda, and I became an initiate of Kriya Yoga. And I've been practicing for 3 years now. And what he talks about in this book, the book that Steve Jobs made sure everyone at his funeral had, the book that George Harrison made sure to give out as gifts and said it's the most important book and you should read it every year, and many more. He talks about all of the things that I've been finding out through my scientific research. He has gone even further, and it's almost like his work confirmed my work. So I felt like I really found, I love Jesus. That's my, I'm not talking about the religious guy. I'm talking about, the one, the master, the ascended master, the one that loves all and doesn't hate anybody, that one. But, Yogananda talks about this. He has a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it very, very loosely. And he says, death is not the great escape. It's not the great escape that we think it is. If that was the case, then let us all go to the ocean at once and drown ourselves and become angels. But he goes, that's not the way it is. He goes, you are who you are in the or in this life, and you are in the afterlife. So to do the work now, here is the place and the time to do that work. So I firmly believe that someone could ascend to heaven while they're alive. The vibration you're on, the level you're on, what you're thinking, what you're putting, what you're doing. So it's almost like when someone passes, they don't have to ascend to heaven. It's almost like they're kind of there already. If they die in a frantic state, they're taking that with them. If they're dying with regret and anger, they're taking that with them. The Buddhists in the Tibetan Book of the Dead talk about bardos. They talk about how they work, they stand around a monk when it's his time for passing and try to help guide him. So there are no distractions and nothing pulls him away. No fear pulls at him as he is moving into that next realm. So that's what I firmly believe. So there is a purgatory, if you want to call it, a middle ground. There's higher levels.
So you mentioned a little bit ago that you were out recording in cemeteries, and then later you were doing some other recordings with a box.
Right.
What is a box?
Well, it's important to understand. It's important to understand that ITC, that's what working with a recorder, working with, tools, those dowsing rods, as something as simple as that, a pendulum, working with a radio box that scans stations, any of these things are instruments. And we're trying to use the instruments to communicate with another dimension. So it's instrumental transcommunication, interdimensional transcommunication. And that has been worked on for over 100 years now. Even before that, Thomas Edison worked on an apparatus to communicate and was, I think, very successful. I think he didn't come out with it because everyone thinks you're crazy. Mainstream science is not up to the level of, they're not there yet. They don't want to accept this stuff, even with places like the Monroe Institute and other amazing, BICs out in Vegas and other places that are trying to do different things in parapsychology departments and institutes. It's getting better, but we're still at the point where, but these guys, in Tesla, Konstantin Radoval, I'm drawing a blank, Frederick Jurgensen. So all of these people were using radio waves, using radios, apparatuses, recorders to record voices from thin air. Whether or not people were ready to classify it, they were ready to classify it as spirits or loved ones or whatever, but they were getting intelligent. Marcello Bacci is one that is, someone in Italy that in the 2000s, 90s, he was doing stuff. He had this radio and he would take the transistor communicator out of the radio, not allowing it to receive any station. So the only thing you would hear would be shh. And he called in number of people that he let observe. And, and then, the same thing would happen each time. One thing is that, with a spirit box is that what it's doing is it's using errant sound, and creating sound, or it's using the sound.
Just random?
Well, there's different, it's kind of hard for me to explain all of a spirit box, but to try to give you a simplest answer, it really started out with those guys using stuff. Then there's Frank Sumption. Frank Sumption created something which was a radio, but it would take AM or FM radio, and he would build in a tuner, or it would skip. And so what he would do is an automatic tuner, and it would skip through the stations automatically at a rate that you would choose. So you could choose a very fast rate. And this is just like taking a radio and you got like the dial, and you never, just go like this, and you hear,
yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing. And that's what would happen. The problem is people would say, well, isn't that just going to be, you're just getting, words from the broadcasts, right? And I'd say, yeah, that's possible. Sure, you get false positives. You get a word that's coming through, and it could be a false positive. I think a lot of paranormal ghost hunters think that when they're using these little radio boxes and they're out there and it's skipping through stations and they're hearing these random words, that a spirit is taking random words from the broadcast and trying to time it and pluck the words from the broadcast and use those words, kind of like Bumblebee in Transformers. He's using it's that card. He uses his stations to talk. What I found out through my own research is that they're taking bits and pieces of the sound and forming their own responses with it. And the way that I was able to prove that was by taking taking human speech and chopping it up into little pieces, reversing it, slowing it down, so I could make a track of just gibberish. So you need human sound for them to use, but you don't want to use anything with words in it, because then it could come through and it won't be the spirit. You may think, so you get a false positive. We don't want that. I would take this track and I would feed it through my box with a little bit of echo and reverb, which helps to create a longer sound wave. And they would take it and form their own responses, very clearly giving me responses, responding to my answers directly. Sometimes they're a little vague, or they're veiled, or they're like a little bit difficult to understand. It's not always direct yes and no's, and yes, you get that stuff, but sometimes it's very clear and very direct. Sometimes it's a little off. But the bottom line is, it's amazing. That there's no way for a word to come through that gibberish track. So if a word does come through, you can bet that someone intelligent is using it. That's pretty much what we're doing. I'm using that. I'm using voice recorders. I'm using sound banks. I'm using radio boxes. I'm using, cameras to pick up, visual evidence as well. So there's a number of things I'm trying to use, multiple tools to validate what I'm getting. And I personally am, everyone is, we are our own best piece of paranormal equipment. We have to go on the intuition. We are all psychic. We all have the ability to tune in. We all get gut feelings, intuition, hunches. We all think of someone before the phone rings and it's them. It's all happened to us before. These are simple, basic psychic, things happening that everyone can tap into.
And I've been playing with your app for a couple of weeks now, and I'm sure you've heard this before. So following directions very clearly, something will come across and you go, how'd that go again? Trying to decipher what the words are.
Yep.
Can be a little difficult. So what kind of hints do you have for me?
Well, that's really something that it's like, they asked Ted Williams, one of the best hitters in baseball, probably the best hitter in baseball to ever, live. They asked him to teach that. And he was a horrible teacher, because he goes, I just do it. You see it, you do it, you hear it, I just took a whole class, 8 weeks, master class, teaching people, over 20 individuals, how to do what I do. And when it came to the part of really how, teaching them how to review, I taught them the process. I gave them some tips on using the app. Don't open it for as long. Really try to just, like, when you're opening the gate, the little noise gate, you want to just go almost like this, just like literally, like the minute you get there, you want to come right back, because you're only allowing like 2 seconds worth of sound to come out. And you're hoping that they can use that short bit, that maybe they're not saying more. Some responses are cut off because of how long we're opening that gate. But why don't we just open that gate and just leave it open? Well, why would we do that? You know what I'm saying? Because
I did it. I experimented.
Everyone should open it up and see what's going on. Turn on the reverb, turn it off, see what's going on. First of all, let me just say, this is a free app that I created, over almost 2 years ago now at this point. It's been an amazing journey, and it's been a compilation of other people's boxes that I've used. And I just put everything that I've used and I put it together, and I created my own sound banks, and I add the reverb that's all in there. And it's got a feature where you can record the stuff in-house. You can in-app, you can hit record. You ask the question without the gate open. You say, hey, it's me, Josh. Is anyone here? And then you would open that gate for just literally 1 to 2 seconds at first. Okay. And a little bit of sound is going to come out, and then you can stop your recording. The chances of you hearing it in real time is not going to be good. Even for me, If you watch any of my sessions, I'm only getting about 30% of what's being said in real time.
Oh,
And those are,
okay. So
yeah,
don't give
yeah. So, I
myself a
mean,
hard time for not getting it all.
no, I know. And, I mean, it's getting better. I mean, there are guys and people I know that are just great at hearing in real time. But there's a problem with that, is that sometimes when you are talking as if you can hear it in real time, you can say, oh, I think you just said this. I think I heard this. But to respond and act as if that's what they just said, knowing, is dangerous. Or I don't say dangerous. It's not right to do, because you can go back and listen and you might hear something a little different. We're looking for clear, direct replies, and it's possible, especially when we intuitively connect in a strong way with that soul, with that spirit. It's a loved one. The chances are that they may come through better than a random person you're asking for, because of the connection they have with you. They got a bond with you. They got a bond with the device. And when hearing it, there's really no secret to hearing it, other than make sure you're recording it and then go back and listen, and just kind of sit there and close your eyes for a moment and try to listen to the first couple times. If you're listening 4 or 5 times, then you need to take a break, walk away. I had a very, I don't say famous, but I guess a big forensic audio expert out there, Ed Primo. He's done some of the biggest, he did some Trump tapes. He's done some, the airplane tapes. He's done all kinds of, he's worked on some really high profile cases. And I was able to work with him on a couple different, occasions. And I sent him my voice recorder that, had, EVP on it, electronic voice phenomenon. It's not the box. It doesn't need sound. It's just a little voice recorder made by Panasonic, $30. And, you can record really amazing EVP with. So I sent that to him for him to analyze. And he goes, yep. He goes, there's something on there. I'm not able to tell you it's saying exactly this. It sounds like human cadence. It sounds like human speech. I'm going to analyze it against yours and your speech, and we're going to see. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, the best way when listening to responses, he goes, you don't want to listen for more than 2 hours. That's, it really sets, your ears, the hairs in your ears get tired. They start to lay down. You close your eyes, you listen within the first couple of passes. And if you don't get it, then you move on and you go on to something else. And then you come back. And then he goes, you want to come back with fresh ears. Try listening to these things during the day, not at night when you're tired and it's better to be daylight listening. You can try with headphones. You can try without the external speakers. When using this app in my box, it does seem to be better to listen with external speakers, because you're not listening to a faint whisper. And it kind of cuts out some of the reverb after recording it, and it's through an external speaker. You're listening. It just, and eventually, as you do this a little bit more, you kind of get that ear for it, and you start to really pick up more and more. But, opening that gate for very little, just a second, and then closing it, a little bit of sound is going to give you a better chance of hearing the response, because it's not going to be super long, super difficult. It's going to be either something or it's not.
Have you found a difference in the quality of the speech if it's a guide versus a dead relative?
You mean the quality as far as so if I'm talking to someone more well-known or a random person, you mean? Is that what you mean? No.
A dead person versus, say, my assigned guide who may or may not have had a human embodiment.
Oh, gotcha. Guides use it well. I have guides that are using it well. I have a team. I think it's very important that I mention I am not, this is not a sole act here. I am not by myself here. I have a number of others on the other side, whether they're listening in on this interview now or not, or whatever, but they're in on the sessions, and they're very active, and they're, very helpful and amazing. I'm just very blessed. So they can use the devices. They speak pretty well through it. But someone that has passed recently, within a few days, within a few weeks, someone that might have a lot of raw emotion, maybe because they just died for whatever purpose. Maybe they have, they can really use the box. They can really use the box.
So they still have some vestigial vibratory energy from the physical plane. It hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, they must still, yeah, I mean, I could speculate. It's just all speculation on that, as far as, but I mean, it seems like they've got a high amount of still like almost human energy. They've got, raw emotion. Emotion is big. I know that when I'm trying to connect to a spirit, or when I'm trying to talk to a spirit, if I'm not coming through that, or if they're not coming through that well, they'll say, connect. You have to connect. Connecting is the biggest key. Psychic ability is huge. There was a guy, I forgot his name. I even mentioned him in my book, and I forgot exactly what his name was, but he created this device, a speaker box, spirit box.
Yep.
And he was using it, and then he was getting amazing results. And then he would give it to some other people to try and use, scientists to kind of check it. And they weren't getting those same results. So they came up with that they deemed that this was something fraudulent. And he said, no, he goes, I'm the operator. I have to connect with it. And to a scientist, that's phooey. That's not scientific. If we can't replicate it, if they can't replicate it in controlled environments with anybody over and over again, then it's really not, it's whatever. So, I mean, I get that, but this guy,
the latest scientific research says that the outcome is based on the observer, and it's the consciousness of the observer that drives the outcome. So with that, you're citing that. Where is that from? Because that's really, I mean, as far as the general consensus in mainstream science is now, is that where we've reached to? Because I've seen many things on quantum theory, and it's spooky action from afar, as Einstein called it. So there's a lot Schrodinger's box. The cat is dead or alive, and it depends upon. And we know that from all the remote viewing work that's been done. That you have to have double and triple blinds, because if somebody knows what the target is, it can influence the person who's doing the remote viewing.
Sure. I've done some remote viewing. I've been, Deborah has taken me through that, and I've been very successful with some targets. That's not what I focus on. But I find it, I've done telekinesis. I've worked extensively on moving things and doing things, and I've had some great success that I talk about in my book and show some videos. So it's really amazing.
How are you at bending spoons?
I didn't work on bending spoons. I really worked with more of the wheel. I worked with different paper foil under domes and under bowls and things from a distance, and I had some really great success standing across the room and moving it one way, and then stopping it, moving it another way, and it took some build up. It took some time to get to that point, but it's been really amazing.
So, having listened to several of your interviews,
yes,
it's coming to me that to use this app well requires good questions.
Okay.
And because I'm watching people and say, do you love me, Dad? Yes, about 50% of the responses have to deal with some sort of emotion about how they care for each other, they don't, or what are you doing in heaven, Dad? But there's I noticed that when you use not yes no questions, that requires the spirit on the other end to actually use sentences and to fill out thoughts. I found those much more compelling.
Sure. Of course they are. I love the
Well,
full.
it strikes me then that when you go in to use the app, that you've got a list of questions ready to go, because you can, the first time I used it, I just got all emotional the first time, thinking that, oh my gosh, I've connected with a loved one, and then all of my questions just flew out of my head.
I know.
It's like,
Right.
how
That's
you
really
doing,
what, I mean,
Grandma?
that's really,
It's like,
I mean, that's the thing. You may get someone on the other side that's willing to work with you on an analytical way, or in an analytical way, or in a way that is more, scientific, that they'll try to really show up to give you some definitive answers based on whatever it is you're asking, an event, whatever it is, about where someone might be, all that stuff. And we'll get some great stuff. But when I'm really trying to bridge a loved one to a loved one here, one over there to one over here, that's when the best stuff really comes through. Because, one of my, if not my favorite movie is Interstellar. Christopher Nolan is a genius, and he's my favorite filmmaker. And Interstellar, I watch it every year, just kind of like the book Autobiography of a Yogi. Like Interstellar is that movie for me that just hits all of those pieces for me. And Anne Hathaway's line in there when they're heading out, to the wormhole, and she says, love is the only thing that can transcend time and space. It's the only thing that we know that can transcend, time and space. And I go, yes, and that's exactly right, because that is what is allowing a lot of this kind of communication to happen. It's love. It's the love that we have.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, when the love is there, the communication is there. When someone is in pain and grief and just needs to hear their loved one's words, something to get them, and it just can't be so vague sometimes. It has to be something, but it also doesn't have to be some long, detailed response. Sometimes it could be something very simple that person will know once they hear it. Oh, no, that's my loved one, because that's what they would say, how they would say it, or whatever it is. So it's love, and that's really what it is. And I'm going to here. I'll just say this, that I think some of my best work, if not my best work, I've done some amazing sessions, and everyone I've reached out to, first of all, I got to say, there's no way for me to prove 100% that I am speaking to these actual people. When I reach out to a loved one, when I reach out to a celebrity or well-known person because people requested them or whatever, there is no way for me to prove. So I am no way claiming 100% that this is this person. What I'm doing is I'm intuitively connecting, I'm setting my intention, I'm seeing them, I'm communicating in my mind, and then I'm turning on the box, and whatever I get, whatever I hear, I tag. You can say that you don't hear what I tag. That's fine too. It's not fact. Not every caption is fact. I'm giving you what I think it is. And then I'm showing you the results. So it's up to you guys to decide whether I connected with that soul or not. But, I think the best work, is that I did when I reached out to Gabby Petito. Now, Gabby is someone, the young girl that was missing, kind of gripped the whole country. I tried reaching out before her body was found. With that case, I got that she was dead. She was lying outside. I got that Brian did it, that he escaped. I got all of that information prior to that being released, affirmatively in the news. I got that, he did it. He hit her in the head, which he did. That didn't come out till months later. It was strangulation at first. She said it. So facts came out before authorities released it. She said he was dead, that he shot himself before it was released in the news. So she was coming through extremely strong. probably one of the strongest I've ever had anyone come through. With that being said, while she was doing that, giving us real information, I know it sounds crazy, but her and I were bonding in a very unconventional way. I never knew that there was a way. It was like we have this friendship now.
Yeah, that's
and
lovely.
I call on her at times, and I'll ask for her through the box. I just got done asking for her, and she comes through. She's clear, and she says, "I miss you. I miss talking to you. I have a love for you." And that is really special. Like, I feel that. I say the same thing to her. Now, I don't know. I never knew her in real life, but it feels like I did, and I do. So there is some connection. There's an amazing, so it's not a loved one. I didn't know her. And there are friends and people that I've passed, that I've talked to, that come through very strong. I had a follower of mine that followed for a long time my work. He died of COVID. That night, I reached out to him, strong believer in Christ, and I reached out to him. It was like a phone call. I heard maybe 60% of it in real time. He was clear. He answered almost every single question very directly, not sometimes these vague non sequitur type responses that you go, well, what the heck does that mean? He was very direct. So, the connection that him and I had, or her and I had, it's something now that we created, it really created, it allowed for some top-notch class A communication.
I think that's really important, that just to reiterate what you said, that there needs to be an emotional connection between you and the person who's make that transition.
Yes.
And I know that, for those of you that have been watching this channel for a while, that shared death experiences, when somebody goes with somebody who's making their transition, that's the primary qualification, that there needs to be an emotional connection between.
Are you talking about when, like, a wife dies and a husband dies an hour later?
No.
Oh, shared it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the wife dies, and when she leaves her physical body for the last time, husband, who's sitting in a chair next to the bed, will leave his physical body and accompany her up into the light. He experiences all of the elements of a shared death experience.
That's really amazing. I've heard the term, and there's so much to this that I still do not know. Even though I've been doing this 10 years and I've written a book and I've worked on a lot of facets of it, there's still so many things, and I don't claim to be an expert, so that's really amazing. I've heard that. So that's what's happening, and then he comes back into his body.
And then, they have a chance to say goodbye in that space, or it's a gift to be able to go, with them through the tunnel.
That's
and go
amazing.
To the reunion party and go through the past life review, and
that is something else. And which, with the past, all of that is very real as far as what I'm getting on my end. Reincarnation, life review, choosing aspects of the future when you're coming back, when it's time, going to school on the other side. There's schools, there's objects, there's things that it's not, they're in a finer, grosser form, but they're vibrating at a higher level. I know that there's something very interesting in my intuitive work with Deborah. We talked about thought forms, creating thought forms, and we create these thought forms and we can destroy them and whatever. And that, even an iPhone is a thought form, because it came from a thought and then it had to be brought into this realm. But what's interesting is that, when I do my group sessions for my patrons, asking for up to 50 people in a session one night, it's kind of like a gallery group session that I'll do. I envision going up into my headspace. It's like a cave, like my bat cave. And then there's like a third eye window, and I'll go through my astral light body that's a little smaller. I shrink it down so it can fit in my head, and it will go out of the third eye across a platform to a floating astral room. And in that room is where I do my sessions, is where I invite the spirit to come to. And it's very interesting because I started doing this on my own. I didn't know, and no one told me to do this. It just started coming. And then they started talking about that they were helping to create this room. And then as I was doing these sessions, you will hear, so I start saying, like, I'm opening the door, and then I'm walking in, and then I'm setting up chairs, and I see these wooden chairs, and there's a table. They started commenting on the thought forms. They started telling me they were at the table. They were sitting in the chairs. They were going through the door. At one point, you can hear the door opening and closing. There's no door sounds in this app or any other, so there's sounds from the other side that are coming through. They're commenting on astral thought forms that I'm creating. That is mind blowing. That is mind blowing to me.
So Joshua, you're talking about the people on the other side are commenting on yours?
Yes.
Not the other people in the room.
No. I'm talking about the deceased loved ones are coming and talking about. One guy said one of the chairs broke. Then I created, I had these old wooden chairs. I don't know why I created these old wooden chairs. I just thought it would look cool. I thought it was cool. They complained about the chairs. I swear, Scott, it's so crazy. I created new chairs, metal chairs with a padded seat. And they go, oh, he's got new chairs. So they've talked about this. They go, one voice says, where's the table? We're getting the table out. It's like someone put the table away. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. It's so freaking nuts, but it's real. Like, I don't know.
So one of your invitees is a neatnik and had to fold up and put the table off in the closet between sessions.
I guess so.
That's too funny.
Oh, it's awesome.
This is fascinating. So where do you think this is going to go next?
I mean, I was hitting, I didn't know where to go with this. All I kept doing was doing sessions. I did my intuitive training. I worked at California Psychics for 2 years as one of their best readers because I just wanted boot camp type training. I wanted, to just thrust myself into getting enough people to come to me so I can do readings, get that experience. I've done over 3,000 readings for people just without boxes, just psychic readings. Okay. Mediumship readings. And then now I'm doing box sessions, but I was posting everything to my channel, which I have, 115,000 almost, on the channel, and like 330,000 on TikTok. And I share my clips on there. And I never thought a 41-year-old man was going to have a TikTok, but I guess I do because it's a great avenue to share this, this work. And but I kind of prayed and I said, God, what am I supposed to do? Like, where am I going with this? What am I supposed to do with all of this? And I got, create an app, write a book, create an app, and start holding live events. The book, of course, I had to charge money for. The app would be for free to give everyone an opportunity for free to try and connect with a loved one if they wanted. Events, I'm going and, hitting different cities. I've done St. Augustine last August. I've got New Orleans coming up this August. I'll have Savannah in the beginning of 2023. And I'll just keep trying to add events. And I'm doing group sessions. I'm doing private sessions. I'm doing readings. And I'm teaching these classes. And I don't know what else to do other than maybe another pod or like a podcast like you're doing or something. I'm doing these interviews. What I did find out is that there's always something more coming down the pike. And I just keep having to trust and ask for the guidance I will say this. I had a friend contact me recently. His mother, whom I've known a long time, I've known him a long time, and his mother had a couple of mini strokes, and he had to take her to the hospital. And there she had a major stroke, and then she had a seizure. She had to be intubated. And he called me upset, and he didn't ask me to contact her. He was just kind of like, I'm upset. And he was calling as a friend. She didn't pass. I mean, she was in a coma. I mean, at the hospital. I got off the phone with him, and something told me to reach out to him, or to her,
Sure.
even though that she was not deceased. I just felt that calling to do that. So I went in my office, I turned on my box, and I focused on her psychically, and I saw her in the hospital bed, and I said, Aida, it's me, Josh, and she knows who I am. And I said, are you there? And she goes, yeah. And I said, how are you doing? Are you okay? It's a stupid question. It's kind of like a human question you ask everyone, when you get. I said, she goes, not today. Very clear, not today. Yeah. And she goes, I said, what have you seen? She goes, a long hallway. She goes, at the end, I said, well, what do you want to tell your family? And she goes, just put me in a bed in hospice. So she was able to come through my box before leaving her body. I mean, before fully leaving her body, but she was able to communicate with me just as any spirit on the other side was able to, very definitively, very clear. And I told my friend what she said. It was hard for me to convey that message to him. A day later, he was putting her in hospice as her dying wishes was, and there was nothing more that they could do. And I asked for her again, and she's like, yeah. She's like, I'll come through again. I like this. She goes, I like this, so she confirmed that she would speak through there. And then he called me the day that she passed, and I contacted her right after, and she goes, I'll be back soon. Really happy, really positive. She goes, I love this place. It's fine. It's good. I'm okay. The video's on my channel, so it's all there, and people can watch it, but it's an amazing, so there's work to be done here. There's more to discover. If everyone that was in a coma could have a chance to communicate. I have now communicated. As weird as it is, I don't know how it's happening. I don't know how it's happening, Scott, but I've had animals, people's pets, that they've picked up the app and they've used it. They put on a child voice. They pick a child voice in the app in one of the sound banks. It's just no words. It's all just gibberish. And they'll ask for their animal. And their animal will, I don't know if it's the animal coming through, but responses that are pertinent and directly relating to what the person is asking are coming through. Yes, it's me. I love you. I'm here. I'm around you all the time. These are the kinds of responses we're getting. And it's just remarkable. I'll say this really quickly. After the coma case, and I saw, whoa, we can really communicate with souls that are, not even, or that are still in their bodies. A woman lost her cat, a follower of mine, and she asked if we could, if I could tune into it. And so I was tuning in, and I asked on my app, and it said, felt sick. The cat ran away, and she never been out of the house ever in like 10 years or whatever the case is. And I asked for the cat, and it says, felt sick, very clear. I said, like, where are you? Where are you right now? It said, reached woods. And I asked the woman, I said, are there woods around you? She goes, all around my house. There's woods all around my house. So the next couple of days we were doing a group session to reach the loved ones, and she wanted to put the cat on the list, even though she didn't know if the cat was dead or not or whatever. And so I was asking my guides about the cat. And one of my guides says the cat's name, and says Bodhi is coming back tomorrow. That's what the guide said. Bodhi is coming back tomorrow. Didn't you know, the next day, the cat walks back to the house, comes back to the house, so what are you going to do, man?
And the technology, do you see that evolving as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as you mean, like with me or my technology, or with the technology in the world?
Well, I was asking specifically about you, but in the world, I'm assuming there's other people who are doing
yeah,
that.
I mean, as far as where we were 10 years ago to now, I mean, it is conversational now. Before it was gappy, it was just one or two words. Now it is getting better. I'm also not, I mean, in addition to the audio, I'm capturing amazing visual evidence. I mean, I'm using water to capture spirits' faces, water ITC. I'm using.
Whoa. How does that work? I've not heard of this. Water ITC.
Oh, man. Hold on. Let's see if I can show you something here. Okay. So if we look at this, so what I'm doing is what we have is I will take a bowl of water and I will fill it up with water. I will then put a light either to the side of the bowl or underneath the bowl.
Okay.
And I will connect intuitively, ask for a spirit to come in with me, work with me here. And I will then put my hand in the bowl and I will agitate the water, creating waves. That starts to distort the light. And within that distortion of light, a spirit can appear and show their image. It's been done many times. It's like scrying. There's different ways of doing it. So this is right here. You can see this looks like the bottom of someone's face. Looks like a chin, a nose, lips. It looks like a woman coming through. You know, people ask me about aliens, and I have picked up responses about ET in my sessions many times. I even had one say the other day, they've been here many times, they've said that. The spirit said that to me. I was asking for spirit. This looks like an alien head. I mean, two eyes, looks like the nose. I'm going to show you something really amazing here, Scott. Hold on. This could be an alien. We don't know, but check this out. This is a baby. We were asking for a child, and here it looks like a child's face, two eyes, nose, mouth, swaddled in cloth. Amazing. Some of this stuff is really amazing. I've captured. Here you can see now, in addition to water ITC, I've captured an apparition. I use a night vision camera, and I'm using a backdrop, a black backdrop. This is just a ring light. But over here, you'll see a face appear and then disappear. It's a side profile of a woman with her mouth open. Really wild. So a full face apparition will appear right there. So you see that face. It's a side profile, nose, mouth open now, and the eye, and it just appears and then it disappears. And what's interesting about this, I was asking for this woman at the time, and it was for a patron. And when the face appeared, and I was asking for the woman, the patron of mine, as she saw it, the follower saw it and goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "I have a picture of the girl you were asking for that looks very similar to this image." And she sent that to me. Let me see if it's there. So this was the woman I was asking for. Her name was Nicole. And you can see that there's a resemblance there. I mean, it's kind of crude, but again, you know, you can see that there's a resemblance there. And this is the woman I was asking for at the time when this apparition showed up. Okay, I was asking for this guy's father, and here you'll see, I did in a little outline, but these faces start to appear. This was a man, you could see it's like his nose, his mouth, his chin, his hair. There's a child. This looks like a child right here. I was asking for a child to come through.
Oh, sure.
Looks like a young girl. You could see the bangs and the eyes, and yeah, it's very distinct there. Let's see what else I've got for you here. Hold on. Oh, that's orbs. So there's a lot of orb activity, and there's orbs that will. You see this white patch on my hair? It went white.
That was an orb strike, huh?
Yeah. That was an orb strike, man. Look, boom. You see the orb coming right out of my head? Yeah, man. You see these orbs coming right out of my head. Now these orbs will come in and out as I'm communicating with them through the group session. You can see again. This orb comes right out of my head.
Yep.
Shoots up. Boom. Now you'll see also right here, this is one of the first times I captured an orb shooting out of my head in the same spot. I was doing a cemetery session. I was reaching a rapper that was shot violently, it was violent, murder. And I was trying to reach out to him for his fans. I was at his spot, his grave site. And I don't know but look
there
at
it
this.
Is. Yeah.
Boom, right out the top of my head. Now you can see one this one's shooting across, and it's almost like this guy comes out to like ward it off, or I don't know. So you can kind of see this guy moving across. Hold on. See this? There's like this ball right here moving right across, and then boom, it shoots up. And it comes normally, I'm showing the diagram of where the third eye, the pineal, gland is. Look at this one. So this is cool. Check this out. You can just.
Yeah, they're just everywhere.
Okay, check this out. This is probably one of the best pieces of evidence I've ever captured with an orb. You're going to see a ball of light move from my bookcase here, and it's going to go in here. It's going to go behind this wall and then shoot out the wall. You're literally going to see an orb move through matter.
I don't know. It looks a lot like vaping to me.
It looks like what? Vaping?
Yeah.
Like someone's blowing a smoke ring through a
like
wall.
Like a smoke ring right through the side of your bookshelf.
How great is that? The last thing I'll show you, we're probably out of time, but the last thing I'll show you really quickly, if you don't mind, is the best piece of water ITC that I've ever captured. And that was when I was asking for Gabby. I was asking for Gabby to come through in a session. And I asked her to see if she would come through and show herself. So check this out. This is the most amazing piece of evidence it's just absolutely insane. This is the original photo. I have the original photo on my iPhone. I took it with my iPhone. So I have the original photo there with the metadata and everything. It's not altered or anything. What I did, I asked Gabby to show herself, and I actually in real time saw this face appear, and I snapped it, and that was it. That's actually on video in a session that I did. So it's on YouTube. You can actually see me doing this, taking this. A lot of times spirit will show themselves as an already taken image that's already been taken of them. And and they do that for the purposes, I believe, again, for verification.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And so I go online and I start looking for images to kind of compare to this. And I find this image of Gabby, only it was reversed. What I find is every time a photo matches up to something I've taken in the water, it has to be reversed. So maybe it's like the mirror world. I don't know why, but it normally has to be reversed. So I flipped this photo, and then I made it, transparent, the opaqueness, and I matched it up, and it matches up perfectly. It matches up perfectly with the original image. It's an exact. So people will only say two things. They'll say, "Oh my God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen," or "Holy cow, what a fake you are." Like, how ridiculously fake. That's impossible. You're going to tell me that this woman came through and showed herself as an already taken image off the internet? I don't know what to tell you. I have the original photo, and it's unaltered, it's unshopped, it's there. And there's many other photos that I have of water ITC that are similar like this. So it's just absolutely remarkable. I can go on and on and on.
Well, we don't have the kind of time to go on and on and on. And I know that you have an event or events coming up.
Yeah.
This would be a good time to do a commercial.
Oh, okay. HopeParanormal.com. That's where you can find all things Hope related. The book, the app, the events, future classes, August 26th, 27th, 28th, New Orleans, Hilton, an old Masonic lodge temple that is where the Hilton is. We'll be there, and we'll be hitting some other spots. And I'll be doing a lecture. I'll be doing an investigation. I'll be doing a gallery group session reading for everyone. So it's going to be a great weekend.
That sounds like fun. And Joshua, thank you for taking the time to be with us today and
absolutely.
sharing all things hope.
It's my honor.
This has been just a blast. So thank you very much. And for those of you watching this episode, stick around because I've got a couple of ideas that I think you'll find interesting. That was an amazing interview. I have some thoughts on what he said. Just to be clear, these are my viewpoints, but that's why you watch the Afterlife Files, to gain perspective by using more than one lens with which to view this rich information. First off, what Joshua is trying to do reminds me of where near-death research stood 30 years ago. ITC looks promising, but it still has a long way to go before it's easy to use and easy to understand. Using this app actually reminded me of our honeymoon in Scotland. When Anne and I would talk with a native Scot, I could see the mouth move, I could hear the speech, I knew it was English, yet I couldn't understand a word. My ear just wasn't tuned to the local dialect. And clearly, Joshua's had time to tune his ear to ITC's speech. The technology is bound to get better. What did help me was his confession that he gets about 30% of what is spoken. That made me feel better. Second, his realization that an emotional connection is really helpful in locating and getting good communication from the person on the other side. We found this with shared death experiences too. Third, in general, his findings mirror what we found in NDE research and in using the meditation techniques that we have honed here at the Expanded Awareness Institute. Last, I love the fact that he can communicate with people in comas. When ITC is more easily understood, it will open up vast opportunities for the care of these individuals. I do hope that videos such as this can give you some insight on what near-death and shared-death experiencers discover about the afterlife, the nature of consciousness, and how to live your life more fully. If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. In addition, I have 6 albums that you can use to start your exploration on your own. If you're ready to jump all in, the best way to experience the other side is to participate in our 5.5-day retreat. This retreat has 2 live trainers, 25 exercises into the non-physical universe, and the distinct advantage of support, group, energy, and intention. I would encourage you to go down below and look at the links associated with the NDE retreat. These links will take you to the information on the different elements of the course and the skill set that you'll learn. This course uses binaural beat technology and gamma synchrony technology so that you can attain and sustain expanded states of consciousness easily and safely. That means this course is perfect for both adept meditators and newbies. Everyone will benefit. Okay, so you've had a close look at ITC and its potential to communicate with the dead. I hope you're curious and download the Hope Spirit Box and give it a try. Reminder, have a series of questions ready to go and record each one separately. This allows you an easy way to play the responses over and over to decipher this otherworldly communication. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment. You can find the Afterlife Files on all podcast streaming apps. Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, the lot. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, or pay us a visit at neardeathmeditations.com. I'll repeat that, neardeathmeditations.com. Bye. See you next time, and thank you for joining us.